In this video, we're going to take a look at the replacement floor panels and then just sort of have a look at how they all fit together, what the components are, and pretty much how everything needs to be installed in the Moke.
Okay, so I've got a series of photos and images that I've got off the internet. It's just so I can sort of explain a few different parts. So this first image that we're looking at here, this sort of shows out how the panels are actually laid out. So I'll start off with this one down the bottom here. This is the actual floor panel. It comes across and then you've got a 90-degree angle that goes straight up. So that's the main floor panel. You then have this panel here. This is the inside of the pannier. So the pannier is over here, the seats are over here, if that makes sense. So this panel comes straight down at an angle and then across on the floor. So if you look around the seam on the inside, you'll see this ridge here that's and then spot welded to the floor. Over here, this section here, you normally have like a L-shaped angle iron, and then the floor, the side box floor. So this is the floor for the actual pannier. So it's a separate panel to the main floor. And then that sort of sits on that angle iron. And there's a gap here, but there's not actually a gap in reality. The rest of the pannier isn't shown in that diagram. So this is just to illustrate that triangle-shaped cavity. In the forums, they call it the Bermuda Triangle. And then that runs along the side of each of the panniers, and it gives it a bit of a structural support. Okay, so the next image here is showing a different way you can repair it. So if you weren't using an entire floor, the floor piece, a full floor, which goes across and then the 90-degree angle goes up, you can actually use these repair panels, and then what you can do is the separate left and right side floor panels, they have an angled piece like that. So rather than keeping that at a 90-degree angle, in this diagram here, one person has sort of just connected it to the main passage, the main internal wall of the pannier box. And then, of course, they've reinforced it with some angle iron in there. I've got a photo that sort of shows that. Okay, so the next image here, so that one's showing that where I mentioned that they're just using a floor repair panel, and then rather than keeping it at the 90 degrees, they're just attaching it directly to these inside panels of the actual Moke. So you'll notice that there's a gap here between these battery bars that the battery rests on, and the reason for that is because they've got rid of that Bermuda Triangle. Of course, if you do it this way, these actual the bars that or the indentations that are on the floor aren't going to be in the correct position, but it just depends on what you're trying to achieve. Okay, so another shot here. This is showing the repair panel piece for the toe board. So in this case here, this may actually be one of the kits. One of the photos, it shows you the actual kit. So that's kind of like what I've done compared to replacing the entire toe board. And then again, in this situation, they've had the similar issue where they sort of had to cut around. Their heel board's in a lot worse condition than mine, but then their centre tunnel is a lot better than mine. Okay, that's just another view of it there. Okay, I'll just go back a frame, just to point out, so the way the actual floor sits above, or the floor rests on that support there. So this actual toe board goes down, slopes all the way down further than the floor. So then there's this support bar that the floor actually rests on. So that's why in this next photo, you can see it here. So if this is looking from the back of the car towards the front where the engine is, so it's this distance here. That's the lower subframe mounting bracket, and the actual floor panel sits on this little a bracket almost, and then the floor's above it. Okay, so that's the same bracket that I was talking about, but the opposite way around. This actual piece, this actual bracket, is joined onto the toe board. You can sort of see here, so that, again, it's a different type of repair panel, but there's the toe board, and it comes all the way, it comes further down than the floor. Okay, so now we're looking at the inside now. So this panel here is the toe board repair panel. You can see it's got like a reinforcing plate on there. And then that runs all the way down towards where the subframe bolt goes. This hole here allows you to do up the actual bolt for the subframe. This little hole here is where you put there's two bolt holes to hold the bottom subframe on. So that's the second hole there. So the bolt just goes directly into that hole to the subframe. Okay, and then they're the two bolts I was talking about. So when the floor sits on top of this toe board, the height of the floor is a little bit above, or so it's sort of where that bolt is. Because if you look in that previous image, that hole there is where the bolt goes through for there. So the floor is sort of level here. And then this is that section that sort of goes a bit lower down to reach the bottom subframe mount. That hole, of course, remains empty just to allow any moisture to build up to escape. Okay, that's another view of the floor. Now, in this case here, these two side panels, it seems like they've just going to plug weld them onto these side panels rather than doing a butt joint. I'm going to try doing a butt joint because I think I'll get a lot better result. It'll look a lot better compared to just doing a plug weld, because then you won't have the two different levels. It'll look a lot neater. Okay, so you're looking at the side now. So here's the toe board here, and then this is that section that sort of goes lower than the floor, sort of just so you can see how all of these panels fit together. I need to sort of remake this panel here, and there's a part number on there too. That might be useful for someone. Okay, and that's just another view there. You can sort of see this section here. That's where those two side repair panels will fit in, and they come with the actual bends on them already. And then the triangle sort of point will sort of fit up there. Okay, that's just showing another view of underneath. So that's the actual main floor. This floor piece is a separate piece, which goes underneath the panniers. Okay, so this is showing a picture of that toe board repair kit. I didn't go with one of these. Obviously, I made my own. And the reason was I just could not find any supplier that actually had this in stock. So the only one toe board that was available is the full toe board, and it retails for around about $500. So trying to keep budget in mind, it was more economical just for me to build my own. The big massive sheet of metal I have, that only cost about $100 from the sheet metal suppliers. So at the current stage of recording this video, I've constructed my toe board. I just need to fix up these two reinforcement panels, and then of course these two separate panels down the bottom that sort of would sit here. That section here gets welded to the floor, and obviously those holes line up with there just to complete that panel to give it a bit more support.